The story that I'm about to tell you is true. 100%. It may be unbelievable, it may be creepy, chilling, but it's true. This story has been accounted for by eyewitnesses, captured on film, recorded by authorities, and retold by me. This story happened not so long ago. 2012, in fact. Latoya Ammons moved to Gary, Indiana, into a modest 3-bedroom with her beautiful 3 children, ages 7, 9, and 12. It was a relatively quiet neighborhood, on a quiet block, where nothing bad ever really happens. What was so special about Latoya? What did she do? Well, nothing really. 4 months after she moved in, on March 20th, 2012, something strange started. Precisely the eldest child being seen, floating above her bed. Yeah. There were many things that happened after that. Creaking doors, the presence of a dark shadow coming out of dark closets, wet footprints on the floor, blinds swinging despite there being no breeze at all. You know, normal stuff. Miss Ammons was disturbed. So disturbed that she had psychics visit her house. They told her her house was possessed by demons. In fact, she had over 200 demons infesting her home. One of the clairvoyants told her to erect a shrine in the source of the demonic energy in the basement, under the stairs. She told her to light a white candle and place a statue of the Holy Family, you know, Mary, Jesus, and all them, and it worked. Well, for a little bit. The youngest boy seemed to be the source of much of the activity. Imagine this. One night, when looking for her little boy to tuck into bed, Miss Ammons found him, alone, in his closet, talking seemingly to no one. When she leaned down and asked her baby boy who he was talking to, he told her there was another boy in the closet with them. He was telling him what it was like to be killed. I mean, what should a mother do? The same little boy was later thrown out of a bathroom by unseen hands. The eldest was hit in the head so forcibly that she required stitches. When the mother went to the family doctor, she confided in him all of the torment and fear that her and her family were going through. She must have been at her wit's end. She must have been exhausted and frustrated at her inability to protect her children or even to explain what was happening to them. But in this moment of complete surrender and vulnerability, reaching out to a professional who she thought would help them, he turned her away. He thought the mother was crazy, that the children were suffering hallucinations. He was concerned, as many afterwards also thought, that the mother was influencing the children to say and believe in these things as a form of covering her own abuse. You see, Latoya and her children are all black, and in American society at least, there is this sort of dismissal of black women, of their needs, of their concerns. It contributes to a really unhealthy environment. I can only imagine what Miss Ammons was going through. Where could she turn to? Who could she turn to? Who would believe her? And on April 19th, while visiting the doctor, the youngest boy started growling. He stared at the doctor and talked in a voice so deep, so foreign, so vicious. No little boy could do that. He must have said some horrible things, frightening things, unbelievable things, and then he and his eldest brother simultaneously passed out, cold, and could not be revived. They were rushed to the hospital where the youngest woke up thrashing and screaming. It took 5 grown men to hold down the boy. He was 7 years old. Well, shortly after that, the Department of Child Services was called. She must have been terrified, Miss Ammons. Not of ghosts or demons or disembodied footsteps, but real fear. The fear a mother has of having her children taken away, of having her life ripped apart based on something she couldn't explain. The fear of not being believed, the worst fear. The fear of being thought of as being a bad mother. They found her after being evaluated of being sound mind. She was not a religious nut, telling her children they were being possessed. But then what? What was happening? Valerie Washington was the case manager charged with interviewing the children. She could not have guessed what she would have witnessed the day that she came in. The youngest boy started to growl in a terrifying voice again. His eyes rolled in the back of his head, exposing nothing but the whites of his eyes. He bared his teeth and lunged at his brother and squeezed the breath out of his throat. He stood over him and in a terrifying voice told him, "It's time to die. I will kill you." When the two boys were separated, the 9-year-old, who had previously been choked, started to headbutt his grandmother. She held him and started to pray. Now this is where it gets really strange. The little boy backed away from her, and what is described by a licensed professional caseworker as, quote, glided backwards up the wall to the ceiling, flipped over the head of his grandmother, and landed perfectly on his feet. Oh, Valerie. How does one put that in a report? It must have affected her greatly, though. The next day, when the grandmother came to pick up the 7-year-old and the 2 other siblings, the children were taken away. This was the greatest fear Miss Ammons had. This was her greatest nightmare. The Department of Child Services wanted to see the house where all this had originated, so they ordered the mother and grandmother to come back to the house for an inspection. But they also brought along Police Captain Charles Austin and 1 other officer. While there, the police audio equipment failed. When new batteries were put in, it still malfunctioned. An unaccounted-for voice saying, "Hey," is the only thing recorded. Photos taken at the site found hazy white figures and a glowing green shape of what was described as looking like a woman. Lights flickered, liquid oozed out of the ceilings, blinds banged on closed windows. Despite their eyewitness, wardship of the children was given to juvenile court. But why? You never hear about this in horror movies. You never see this on TV. It's always the children and the family together fighting down paranormal experiences. So why was Miss Ammons' children taken away from her? She couldn't do anything. People were seeing it too. People had seen what she had seen. They knew what she was talking about. But she was still punished. It's too tragic. The court found that all throughout the children's paranormal unexplained ordeal that they had missed too much school, and the mother was being accused of truancy. Truancy. Your child is talking to an unseen boy in their closet telling them how it feels to die, and you talk about getting them dressed for school? It's cruel. Ammons had had enough, and by June she moved to Indianapolis, and thankfully, by November, the children were returned to her. In one of the final meetings with the Department of Child Services, they found, and I quote, "no demonic presence or spirits in the house." Don't believe me? Well, how about you check the over 800 pages of police reports filed on this incident? The nurses, the doctors, the social workers, the police officers, and the hospital chaplain who all witnessed these events. Do you believe them? That on different days at different times, never knowing each other, that they would make up all these events? Or maybe you should think a little bit more about who you believe and who you don't believe. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode and for tuning in for another episode. I cannot believe that I've been doing this weekly. Actually, you know what? I can, because I have nothing else better to do, because I'm housebound. So if you are, like me, stuck inside your house, trapped, with nothing else better to do, I hope to see you again for another episode. If you are in the Seattle area, you probably already know this, but all of my live shows have been canceled for the foreseeable future. Hopefully not too long. Hopefully we'll be back in April-ish. God, I'm hoping at least we'll be back by May. Oh, God, please. So please, if you haven't already, check out the Facebook and the Twitter and the Instagram as well. All the links are below. Please also consider supporting my Patreon, because times are real tough right now, and I could use some sort of financial help if you feel like it. If you can, no pressure. Just think about me. All right, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys later. Remember, stay spooky. Bye.